We here at the Infographics Show pride ourselves on educating you every day on everything from science and technology to foreign affairs, and even just everyday things that you're probably wondering about but never thought to ask. Today, we're going to be tackling another viewer question. Infographics fan Courtney asked us, how does house arrest work? If you've seen our previous video on the differences between prison and jail, then you already know that the US Penal Code is a bit of a mess of rules and regulations. Not only are there different jails, but there's different prisons too, and no clear way of knowing where you might end up if you commit an offense. Today though, we'll be looking at what seems to be the lightest of these punishment options, and what might land you a stint at home as opposed to a long stay in jail or prison. So you've done the crime, and now it's time to do the time. Except your time will be done all at home. But what kinds of crimes net you a home arrest, or home confinement as it's legally known? Well, the regulations for home confinement vary by state, but generally only those individuals who are considered low-risk and non-violent offenders are eligible for house arrest. That means that if you get caught for murdering and eating 24 people, you have zero chance of house arrest. But if you were caught for, we don't know, defacing a public statue, then you'd qualify for home confinement. But only if you were a low-risk offender. What does that all mean exactly? In all honesty, it's hard to be sure because nobody is really clear on exactly what types of crimes even qualify for house arrest in the first place. Vandalizing a public statue could earn you a hefty fine in most places, but it could also potentially land you under house arrest. The same goes for a DUI that ends non-violently. In truth, earning an actual sentence of house arrest over jail is largely up to the judge, and is the reason impartial judges with good, judgment are so important. Being sentenced to county jail is a mandatory requirement for house arrest though, and again, this is where things get rather discretional on the judge's part. Many misdemeanors often only involve fines and/or community service and mandatory counseling, but sometimes they can land you a stint in jail which would qualify for house arrest. If you're sentenced to even a single day of jail, then you're eligible to serve that day under house arrest instead. The same goes if you're sentenced to 20 years in jail, although to be fair, any offense with such a hefty sentence would automatically be a felony. And that's the real key here. The indictment must be for a misdemeanor, not a felony. But wait, wasn't famous scam artist Bernie Madoff sentenced to house arrest initially? Well, yes, but also no. Bernie Madoff, whom if you don't know was convicted of operating the largest Ponzi scheme in the world and stealing almost $65 billion, was actually sentenced to house arrest along with a $20 million bail in lieu of sitting in jail for the duration of his trial. That is yet another reason to earn yourself house arrest. But even then, only if you're considered a low flight risk and haven't committed a violent criminal act. In that case, you can post bail and sit at home for the duration of your trial, rather than wait it out in jail, although it really helps if you're filthy rich, of course. Another key qualifier for house arrest is having your residence be in or very near to the county in which you're actually sentenced. So if you got sentenced to 3 months of house arrest in Tucson, Arizona, you can't just jet off to your private mansion in Malibu with a private beach and choose to serve your sentence there. This actually is pretty common sense policy, but if we were rich enough and got sentenced to house arrest, we'd just immediately buy a home on the shore of Hawaii somewhere or buy an entire water park and declare it our legal residence. Along with your residence being in or near the county you were sentenced in, your home must also have a valid telephone through which your parole officer and other court officials can contact you. From our research, it seems that the rules on this vary state by state, with some states accepting a cell phone and others mandating that you have a physical landline available inside your residence. For the younger members of our audience, a landline used to be a communications device similar to a cell phone, but was physically connected to a global network of cables and allowed people to speak via voice communications with other people. It had no games, no texting, and zero apps. If you used it at the same time that you tried to use the internet, it would crash the internet. Lastly, to qualify for house arrest, you have to be able to pay some or all of the cost of monitoring your compliance. While house arrest is far cheaper for the government than keeping you locked up in jail, it still costs about $6,000 a year. This cost includes the price of the monitoring unit, which you must wear around your ankle and is GPS enabled, and the cost of that monitoring itself. Once more, states differ, with some states having an upfront fee of around $14 a day, and other states adjusting the daily fee on a sliding scale versus your income. In the end, it's preferable to the government if you stay locked up at home instead of a jail facility, as it's cheaper, and so most courts are willing to work with you on the financial side. So now that we know how to get yourself house arrest, how does it work exactly? Well, you've probably seen it portrayed in the movies, and in most cases the depiction is completely wrong. House arrest sounds like, well, you being arrested to your house, but in reality, many exceptions can be made for you to actually leave your residence. For example, work exemptions are common for people with jobs, and it makes more sense for the government to let you keep working and be a productive member of society than not. The same goes for those attending school, and exemptions based around your school schedule are also possible. There can even be exemptions for court-appointed counseling events, and at times for religious events. Again, the specific terms of your house arrest are largely in the hands of your sentencing judge. Whatever the exceptions though, your schedule is very closely monitored. And if you are not physically inside your residence within the allowed time, then you're considered to be in violation of your house arrest and can be sent to real jail. Thanks to GPS technology, the court can be aware of you just sneaking to the end of the block for a quick chat with your friends or to pick up a soda from the corner store, and it has a zero-tolerance policy for offenses. That same GPS technology, though, also lets the court see that you were stuck in traffic. And thanks to big data, it can be easy to pull up traffic patterns and realize that the reason you were an hour late getting home isn't because you were willfully violating your house arrest, but because of bad traffic. But what about feeding yourself and taking care of other vital necessities? Well, once more, the responsibility of physically taking care of yourself falls on you rather than the state, which alleviates a large amount of the cost of the state holding you. This means that if you aren't able to meet your own basic daily needs, then you will not qualify for house arrest. It's helpful if you have a job you can be exempted to go to work at, or have supportive friends and family nearby or living with you that can cover the cost of your food for the duration of your sentence. This additional support also extends to actually getting that food into the house in the first place, and is the reason why so many people who live alone don't qualify for house arrest. Assigning you someone to physically bring you food and other necessities would completely destroy the one advantage of house arrest, the fact that it saves the court money. And so therefore, how you feed yourself and buy new toilet paper is completely on you. The ability to not be able to get these things done for yourself or with the assistance of others will also disqualify you from house arrest. Luckily for you, Amazon delivers everything you could possibly need straight to your door, and Uber Eats and DoorDash can bring you food with the press of a button. While at home, you can enjoy pretty much the same freedoms you always did, and only in extremely rare and specific circumstances will you be barred from the internet or receiving any visitors. Although judges can enforce as a condition of your sentence that you do not associate with specific individuals for the duration of your house arrest. However, this works largely on the honor system and on investigations done by parole officers. And while you likely wouldn't get caught, it's probably best to not push your luck and earn yourself a trip to the real big house. With all these advantages, house arrest can seem like a pretty attractive option, but it does come with one pretty glaring downside. The fact that time served on house arrest will not qualify for good behavior and thus earn a reduction in your sentence. Typically in jail, you can earn a 1-for-1 day reduction on your sentence for good behavior, meaning that if you're cooperative, polite, and don't cause any trouble, you can get 1 day knocked off your sentence for every 1 day served with good behavior. Unfortunately, house arrest is exempt from this rule, so while it may be more comfortable to sit at home than in jail, you'll be stuck inside the house for much longer than you would if you were a model prisoner in a county jail. Would you rather get sentenced to house arrest or real jail? Got another question only the Infographics show can answer? Email us or let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, check out our challenge episode, I Didn't Leave Home for 30 Days, to see what a real house arrest might look like.